Hello lovely learners, welcome back to ALifeLearned. Today is a video I am pretty darn nervous to put out, which I realize is a little bit ironic and hypocritical considering a lot of the messages in my past videos have been to encourage people to reach out for help when they need it. But in this particular situation, I need help with finances, and there's just some kind of taboo in our society, it seems, where that's the particular area you're definitely not allowed to ask for help. If you can't figure it out yourself, then you got to deal with whatever you got, right? Or at least that's the message I got going around in my head quite a bit. But my therapist, my friends, and other people in the community have encouraged me to reach out and ask for help in this situation because, frankly, the worst you can get is no. And I definitely understand that a lot of people are struggling, and if they're not in the position to help, then they're not the one that this video is for. I'm not trying to target anyone or make them feel bad if they're not in the position to help. I'm simply reaching out to anyone who might have it within their means to offer a little bit of extra. Even $1, $5, anything helps. So a little bit of context. My car is about to die. I got a car a couple years ago, and it's been on its deathbed basically since I bought it. I'll get into that a little bit later in the video. And I haven't been able to work for a while because I've been trying to work through my therapy. You might see in my last couple of videos where I've made quite a bit of progress because I've been able to focus on it instead of being in work or school. But it's meant that my finances have gotten pretty bad because I've basically been leaning on my credit in order to survive. So I'm not in the position to afford a new vehicle, even though this one is about to crap out any day. I can afford within my budget to support a vehicle, so I'm not being unreasonable with my finances in that sense. I'm just not in the position to put forward $7,000 for a new vehicle, or a new used vehicle. I'm never about to get a brand new one. But even, even just the most basic certified vehicle right now is bare minimum $6,000 or $7,000. It's really spiked since the pandemic, and so this is what I'm facing. For context, a couple years ago, I was applying for work in the community service field and realized like over 70% of the jobs that I was trying to apply for demanded that I have a reliable vehicle. And my plan had been to get a job, save some money, and then get a vehicle. But I realized I had to kind of switch that if I was going to get the job at all. So I did a little fundraising similar to this, but much quieter, just put out on my personal social media. Anyone who has a little to spare, it would mean a lot. I'm trying to get work. I managed to fundraise about $500, I want to say, maybe a little bit more than that. So with a car that ended up costing $2,500, it helped, but it meant that $2,000 had to come off of my line of credit in order to afford this car. And it was a bit of a kerfuffle where I ended up finding it in Hamilton, so a friend drove me there and I had to expend gas that I didn't really have money for, and so I could see some red flags when I was buying it, but it was my first car, and I'd kind of already made the decision before getting there that I was buying it, so I didn't do the smart thing and listen to those red flags and end the deal. I went forward with it. Regrets. And these people, so I learned that if you get a car safety, that's basically saying there's relatively nothing wrong with it. It should be good to go for a while as long as you take care of it. So my thought was, get these people to safety this car because they were selling it as is. And I was like, well, will you give it to me safety? I'll pay more. They tacked on an extra $500, funny enough, so everybody basically helped me pay for that safety. But one of them was a mechanic. So through deduction, I realized later that they gave me a botched safety. It was fake. It was a real piece of paperwork that was certified, but they didn't do the work to actually safety the car. And I learned this because not a month, 2 months into bringing it to my new mechanic, they were like, yeah, there's these serious issues you really need to address. And I was like, it wouldn't have passed a safety with those, would it? And they were like, probably not. I'm like, yeah, great, perfect, awesome. So I started trying to fix it. I had a job at the time. The intent of the job was to pay down the debt that I had accumulated buying the car, but instead I just kind of kept accumulating debt, frankly, because even though I was working and I was putting as much as I could of that check onto my credit cards, I was also spending thousands of dollars trying to fix this car. Over the last 2 years, I've definitely put over $7,000 into it. Like, for sure, I went through the receipts over a year ago and it was at 5,000 something. So I'm pretty sure it's reached 7 at this point. So I brought it back to the mechanic to get my winters changed into my all seasons last week. And they had a look at it and were like, you really need to stop fixing this. It is broken. You need to get another car. And to clarify, they had actually said that last year as well, because I have 2 catalytic converters on this car. If you ever see a vehicle that you're looking to buy and it has 2 tailpipes, say no. Say no. This is the lesson for this car for me. Say no, because then you will end up with 2 catalytic converters, 2 pipe systems, exhaust systems, like literally twice as much cost to maintain the dang thing. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to pull up a list of the most recent issues. Because to be clear, when I went to get my winters changed into my all seasons last year, or maybe, no, it was a little bit later in the summer, I came to them because the car was acting up and they were like, yeah, we really think it's the broken cats that you literally bought the car with. You need to replace those, although we actually don't recommend it because it's at least $2,000 per cat. And yeah, just a reminder, I paid $2,500 for this car. So they're like, yeah, basically almost twice the cost of the car just to replace these catalytic converters. So obviously not worth it. Don't do it. Get a new car. And I was just like, that sucks. I don't have that money. I'm just going to keep driving it. Year later, I know this is bad because if the cat's not working, that means that I'm putting out a lot more greenhouse gases when I'm driving, which I feel that's not good, and I recognize that. And another push for this new car is a more efficient car that will not be so hard on the environment. But then I had the epiphany, like, my brakes aren't feeling so great, I'm going to ask them to check my brake pads while they're changing the tires. At this point, I already know, again, that both of my catalytic converters are busted, not working. They suggest changing them. And then, so they're half working. Sometimes they code, sometimes they don't. So sometimes they work. But I also have this small leak that is obviously growing because nobody oiled this car, so it rusts like crazy, in the in-pipe for my gas tank on the top. So, like, I can fill gas, it's not an issue, but it does create, like, it lets fumes out of the top that it shouldn't, and just generally you shouldn't have an opening in that system. They're like, yeah, that part, and this was a couple of years ago. Sorry, there's something on my lip. That part, without any labor, was like $350 just for the part. And so they were, again, because this is the type of mechanic they are, they're like, we'll fix it. We're more than willing to fix anything you want us to, but we don't recommend it because this car is so damn broken. You should stop fixing it. So I didn't. It just, like, keeps piling up, you know? And then this year, I go in again, I ask, can you please tell me what's wrong with my brakes or if they're okay? Turns out the front brakes, the rear brakes are fine, like the brake pads, but the rotors are screwed. The front pads need to be changed and the front rotors are screwed. My headlamps need to be changed. I bought it with the left fender being the wrong fender. I have a Chrysler Sebring and the fender is for a Chrysler 200 or 300, so they're very similar models, but they're not the same. My car door has never opened right, and now that fender's starting to fall off, so there's that. And then there's a brake flex hose that's being pinched, so one of my brakes just basically isn't working, you know, good stuff. It's probably why the pad's still fine. More problems with my lights, my fog lights, and then the biggest issue right now that has caused me to move into absolute panic, because I'm like, this is real. Like, all these other issues are things that are going to keep getting worse, but I can still try to make this thing work while, like, I save up to get my own vehicle now. But what's, like, sealed the deal of this car could give any day is a rust spot, again, because they didn't oil the car, they didn't take care of it. There's this giant rust spot behind the driver's side back wheel that is, like, straight through the top fender part that holds the bumper on. And I saw it was like February, I think, when I saw how bad it was, and I kind of, like, knocked at it and a chunk fell off, and I was like, oh, that's not good. And then the mechanic saw it and he was like, I'm shocked that hasn't fallen off yet. Like, that should be gone. That is the piece holding your bumper. I don't know why your bumper is still up. He's like, one bad bump and that bumper is gone. And if that happens, that does actually seal the deal for the car, because if the body's falling apart, that makes it unsafe for the road. Oh, and repairing that, another $2,000. So with all of the old repairs that I couldn't really do or didn't make sense to do because the car was already broken to begin with, combined with the new repairs, I'm definitely looking at over $7,000 in repairs on this junker. And because it was never oiled, the mechanic keeps saying, like, it doesn't make sense to spend all this money fixing it because more shit's just going to keep falling apart because it wasn't oiled. And for those who don't understand, oiling is when you basically, it's in Canada in particular, it's how we protect ourselves from the salt that we put on our roads, and how that really degrades the metals that are in the cars. And so not oiling your car when you're in a province or a state that has snow means killing that car a lot faster, because rust will eat away at it a lot faster, whereas the oil helps keep away the salts, which build up with water and break down into that rust situation. Bad science explaining that, but that's the gist of it. So I am asking for help to try and fundraise for another car. My mechanic says that they have one for $7,000 completely certified, which is actually a pretty good deal, because a lot of cars are like $6,000 as is, figure it out, which could be, another $2,000 in repairs, God knows. So the fact that it's fully certified is actually a pretty decent deal, but I just don't have that kind of money right now. At most, after my tax return, I might have $2,500. Funny enough, the amount I spent on the original car. But I definitely don't have $7,000. I'm going to be working really hard to try and save up over the summer. I'm going to be trying to work on building up my creator content and a Patreon and a Twitch. These are things I already had planned, to be honest, but now I'm just like in a rush to get them done, because I respect that it makes sense for me to work towards this and not to just ask everybody to fund it. At the same time, though, I am very poor. I don't have an income right now beyond social assistance, which hardly covers anything. And I do a lot of charity work and a lot of community work. I give myself and my time freely to people all the time because I love my community, because I love people, because I believe in a world where we give to each other just because we love each other and want to care and want to contribute. And so, like, even though I haven't been working and I've been trying to focus on my therapy, I've actually been really busy for the last 3-4 months because I've just been volunteering a lot all over the place, giving my time. Like, when someone contacts me on YouTube and they have questions about literally any of the videos that I've made, I find time in my schedule and I sit down with them and I do like a Zoom, a Google chat, whatever, and we talk about, what do they need? How can I help? And I don't charge people for that time, right? I give back to my community in really quiet ways all the time, where when I see stuff on the side of the road, especially at this time of year when the students start purging, like, everything's burning or something, and there's just like perfectly good stuff all over the road, I will use my vehicle to bring a lot of that stuff, like literally tons and tons of that stuff, to the Mission Thrift. And I'll just afford the gas. I won't ask anybody for help with that, because my whole thing is that I'm saving that stuff from the garbage and I'm supporting the Mission Thrift through getting them these great products that they can sell and fundraise with, right? I also bring a lot of people to the food bank and to doctor's appointments and to various other things who are really low income and would have to either take the bus, which frankly is a huge buildup to have to work yourself up to when you have mental health issues, or, frankly, our bus system is terrible here, but I'll get into that in a minute. Or really far distances that the bus won't go. I help these people buy used objects so they don't have to worry about affording new, for things like strollers or car seats for babies, like expensive stuff. And in that way, my car isn't just a personal vehicle. It's very much a community vehicle. Anybody who's connected to me, I freely offer it as a service, or not so much as a service as like, I love you, I have this privilege, let me share it with you. And above all, I shouldn't say above all, the charity's definitely the above all, but for me, a really big factor is my disabilities. Before this, I never owned a vehicle. I had access to driving some people's vehicles because I had my license, and at one point, briefly, my parents had one, but I've never had the luxury of being able to get to the grocery store and back without bruising myself before I got this vehicle. I didn't have the luxury of reaching really difficult charity events that were on the edge of the city because, frankly, the stress with my PTSD of taking the bus would completely negate the worth of going to that event. Or the pain. That's something a lot of people don't realize is the bus seats are really freaking hard. And that hurts the fibro a lot. And then standing, holding the bar, like that hurts in a whole other way. And the bus drivers, sometimes they really love the gas and brake pedal at the same time. So they'll just like slam on the gas and, cause you to go this way, and then they'll slam on the brake and cause you to go that way. And just to be clear, I have arthritis in my neck. It gets painful. And so there are a lot of factors about public transit that just don't work for people with disabilities, and I would love to see a world where they become more accommodating and that we're all taking public transit when we're not doing things involving going out of the city. Like, public transit is the way to go. But public transit in London is an absolute shit show. Excuse my French. It's just not good. So because I got scammed and basically lost $2,000 of my money plus $7,000 in repairing, because I've been healing and making a lot of progress, but thus unable to work in like steady employment, I'm not in the financial position to afford this vehicle. But in getting this vehicle, I will both be increasing or maintaining the quality of life that I've managed to get in terms of reducing the impacts on my disability, just trying to get by day to day, and I can maintain the charity and the community giving that I've been doing with this vehicle. So if you're able to help in any way, again, $1, $5, $50, $500. I know that's silly, but anything helps. My goal is actually only to just fundraise half of the cost of the car, about $3,500, and I'm going to try and figure out the other half. And so if you're able to help, you will not only be helping me and not only recognizing all of the unpaid community work that I regularly do and will continue to do, you're also helping people in my community. You're helping us keep our quality of life, keep our capacity to work together, to use this vehicle to help our wellness stay where it is instead of declining. I know a lot of us are struggling right now with a lot of different things, and there's a lot of other causes out there to help with, and so I don't mean to discourage you from participating in those causes. Put your money where you feel comfortable, of course. I'm just reaching out, trying to humbly ask anyone who's able, I'm in need. I'm scared to ask you for help. I'm scared of rejection, but I'm trying to be brave here and say, I need your help, and anything you can do would really make a big difference to me and to my community and to my wellness. Thank you for listening this long. Please feel free to comment below if you're struggling, and if you can relate, if you've had car troubles. I'm more than happy to have a conversation as well. I'm not just looking to get money. And if you're curious where to donate, by the way, there's a link in the, or rather, PayPal has got me in the wait. They're processing my documentation. So as soon as I have the PayPal link available for a fundraiser, I'll be putting it in the description. For anyone who's in Canada, though, before I get that PayPal link functioning, you're more than welcome to just e-transfer the email below. I realize that e-transfers don't work outside of Canada, though, so if you're outside of Canada, please just check back for either on my socials or on this video. In a couple days, you'll see a PayPal link, and then however much you feel able to help, that link will let you do that regardless of your country. And the cool thing is, because I'm doing it unlisted, as they call it, they're not going to be taking extra fees off of it, so 100% of what you give will be going towards the fundraiser. So again, if you are able to help, thank you so much. If you aren't, I totally understand, but thank you for listening either way. And as always, do join me again next week or sometime soon, where I try again to share a little something I've learned or experienced in life.